Hey, Sound Up fans, it's Mark Goodman here. To stay connected to everything happening in the world of music, make sure to subscribe to this podcast, Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light. Join the conversations, experience live events, and be a part of the podcast. To get in on the action, check out our website at sounduppod.com. Like and follow us on social media at sounduppod and email us at connect@sounduppod.com.
This is Sound Up with Mark Goodman and Alan Light, the only music podcast that matters.
Hey, I'm Mark Goodman.
And I'm Alan Light. And this week on Sound Up, Dave Stewart joins us to discuss the official release of his album, Dave Stewart Sings Bob Dylan.
This month marks the 40th anniversary of one of the biggest concerts in music history, Live Aid. I was there, of course, and we'll talk about what I can remember. I remember a fair amount from that day. The new CNN documentary, which premiered over the weekend, and its impact 40 years later.
Plus, Justin Bieber dropped a new album, and Lynne canceled ELO's final UK farewell show.
And, of course, your comments and our new music picks. All right. Before we get into Live Aid, which is going to be a big discussion, we should talk a little bit about the shocking news that Lynne canceled the final show, the final ELO show over the weekend.
Yeah, we got an announcement Saturday morning. I have to do the time zones. I think
12th.
It was Saturday morning here,
Yeah.
right? On the ELO socials, the Lynne socials. Lynne is heartbroken to report that he will not be able to perform at tomorrow's BST Hyde Park show. Jeff has been battling a systemic infection and is currently in the care of a team of doctors who have advised him that performing is simply not possible at this time, nor will he be able to reschedule. The legacy of the band and his longtime fans are foremost in Jeff's mind today, and while he's so sorry that he cannot perform, he knows that he must focus on his health and rehabilitation at this time. And then information on ticket refunds.
You know, it feels to me like, tell me what you think. It feels to me like, yes, okay, canceling for a systemic infection and he's in the treatment of doctors and focus on his health. Great. But the fact that it's already determined now that he will not reschedule, that leads me to believe that something else more serious may be happening.
To say that as an absolute, rather even than just to say, we'll see if rescheduling is going to be possible. I mean, Hyde Park is a complicated thing.
Sure.
Rescheduling that, which is seasonal and limited and everything around that is one thing. But to say this was going to be the big final farewell to the UK ELO performance and we're not doing it does seem to be indicative of something else that's happening. There were some other dates he canceled within the last few weeks. I think you had said he had broken his wrist. Yeah.
Right. That was the first thing that I heard, and I thought, oh, damn, he's not going to be able to play the guitar. Oh, well.
And he did one. There was one show that he did where they did the show,
right,
but he didn't play. So, clearly this is something far beyond whatever that was, whether it's related or that's just another fluky, there was an accident in addition to whatever this illness is. But it is concerning.
It definitely is. And I'm obviously we are all hoping that he gets better as quickly as possible. There was, in addition to that weird sort of finite, like we're not rescheduling, there was also a comment about we're going to sort of examine things and see what happens in the future. But it sounds pretty definitive that they are not planning on rescheduling.
On revisiting this, certainly for now. So we know we've got big ELO fans among our listeners. We're sending all best thoughts to Jeff and hope that whatever, spin can pull out of this spin one way or another.
I've been saying since this was announced, but it's not the end of Lynne. He's just that project is done. He's retiring that, but he wasn't retiring.
Right.
Now what? So a lot of question marks.
Doesn't necessarily preclude studio work. Not that he's been doing a lot of studio work in recent years either, but it's been a focus on the ELO stuff anyway. Presumably we'll hear more, although maybe we won't hear more for a while, given the tone of that statement. That may be leave me alone for the time being, and we'll see what shakes out. So we'll move to big anniversary. Big anniversary for you. Big coverage out in the world. A new CNN 4-part series that the first part premiered over the weekend. looking back at the 40th anniversary of Live Aid, one of the most iconic and ambitious concerts in music history. Let's just do the recap. On July 13, 1985, the world watched as two massive benefit concerts unfolded simultaneously, one at Wembley Stadium in London, the other at JFK in Philadelphia. And together they formed a global event unlike anything that had ever been attempted or seen before.
It's true. The idea for Live Aid, born out of the urgent humanitarian crisis in Ethiopia, where a devastating famine was claiming hundreds of thousands of lives. And in response, Irish musician and activist Sir Bob Geldof, best known at the time as the frontman for the Boomtown Rats, joined forces with Midge Ure of Ultravox. Their initial effort was the 1984 charity single, Do They Know It's Christmas by Band Aid, raised a ton of money, and they wanted to do more. And Live Aid was, in fact, that more. The broadcast on CNN on Sunday covered what more they wanted, and really that episode seemed to me to be why. The show, Live Aid, broadcast to an estimated 1.9 billion people across 150 countries. It was not just a concert. It was, in fact, a planetary cultural moment, and I don't think that's overstating the case. More than 70 acts performed over 16 hours, from Queen's legendary set in London to a reunited Led Zeppelin in Philly. Performers included Bowie, Madonna, U2, The Who, Elton John, McCartney, and dozens more. And all of this came at a time when MTV was exploding into the mainstream. And of course, I was there. Four of us original MTV VJs were in Philadelphia. JJ was, and he was thrilled about this, was at Wembley covering for us there. So we were the four of us in Philly, not just introducing artists, but we were doing backstage reporting, interviewing musicians, witnessing literally history unfold in real time.
Live Aid was not just about the music. It was covered like a global sporting event, news event, breaking coverage event with rolling commentary, live reports, updates from aid organizations on the ground, updates obviously as the money was rolling in. It set the standard for what music and media could do when aligned with a purpose. It was a moment where pop culture proved it could truly move the world. And 40 years later, the legacy of Live Aid continues to echo, not only for the funds it raised, which was over $125 million in aid, but for the awareness that it sparked and the power that it proved music could hold, which cast a huge shadow, certainly over a number of efforts in the 80s and beyond, and remaining sort of the defining example of this kind of effort for anything in entertainment moving forward.
It's true. One of the lines around that time, which was, I don't know, semi-offensive, I guess, was, "This is when the music business got a conscience." And, let's not forget George Harrison, how many years before this, who certainly also wasn't nearly the event that this was, but still, it was the first event of its kind. It was massive. It cast a long shadow, as you said, Alan, as this does. But holy cow. I mean, this was, especially for somebody like Bob Geldof, who, the Boomtown Rats were like, wait, what was their song again?
Right.
Right?
Well, and he said in the, so we should talk about the CNN, at least this first episode of the CNN
the first
series
episode
first, before we get into the real-time stuff. Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was a 4-part series. As I was watching it, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of stuff they're leaving out.
It's going to be squeeze in a lot of that. But even he said there, like, why? This was a moment where I sort of realized, like, Boomtown Rats may not be a big deal band moving forward. I mean, he was at a bit of a crossroads himself about what he was going to do. Seeing Duran Duran coming in, seeing a different kind of, that the new wave thing that was happening, and what was he going to be doing with himself? But what did you think? What did you make of at least this first part? Because it is, we know it is a great story. It is a historic story. It's a story that has been told a few times over the years. So what did you notice in this hour of TV time?
Well, once I realized that it was a 4-part series, I was a lot more forgiving. And having said that, I'm glad that they showed as much footage as they did of what was happening in Ethiopia.
Mhm.
And so that you really did understand it. It can almost, if you don't see it, I mean, it can almost be like, oh, yeah, what's the big deal? And this, I think, really underscored how important it was. Once Geldof was impressed with it, and once he went to Ethiopia and really saw firsthand what was going on, his return and his strong arm tactics.
Yes.
Was like, okay, I get it now. Like Pete Townsend said that he said the Who are reforming to play. Well, they hadn't considered that they were reforming or playing. He sort of strong-armed them into that. And that happened to more than one band I know that day. But I understand it now.
He strong-armed Boy George to getting on the
Yep.
Concorde to come record Do They Know It's Christmas? You know what? I thought this documentary so far is doing a great job because it's showing a lot of the story that I don't think was ever gone into this quite amount of detail. Seeing Sir Bob with Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
And his comments on how she turns it on when was real interesting, but just the problems he was facing. And then the problems with where the money was going and how it was being allocated was really, really interesting. It was, there was so many working parts to just that first half before you got to let's do a concert.
Right.
I mean, I think, it's, again, well established, the shameless, for all the right reasons, tactics that Geldof brought into this in terms of harassing, guilting, annoying everybody to participate. But it's funny, the things that stood out to me from this piece of the story, I think part of it, Mark, what you said, that remembering that this is not quite a pre-cable world, but it's sort of a pre-CNN world.
Yeah.
And so the exposure to these global tragedies, these global stories was not a daily, now you turn on the screen. No, you turn on the news and you're seeing some horrible thing that's happening somewhere in the world and you're watching footage of it. And that's just part of our experience. And the way that he was like, I watched this BBC report, or they got it on the NBC News and then it got all of this reaction from the public, like that it was such a different media structure just for people to know about this stuff or to have any kind of relationship to this stuff was kind of a striking part of that.
I'm curious for each of you guys, not to cut you off, Alan. Go ahead. You finish your thought. Because I wanted you guys, look, you're a lot younger than I am. And what did that day mean in that time to you guys? And now with this special, is your perspective changed?
Just finishing the thought on that, because
Yes,
it's a
I'm
related
sorry.
thought, is, well, because it's sort of then the update of that is like, you can't, even when they were making this documentary, presumably, thinking right now about these tragic and evil cuts and destruction of U.S. international aid programs, and the way that you do see that this is a story in history. In a way, I was almost going into this like, look, we know this story, like we've heard it over and over again, and yet the context of the moment and what is going on with the destruction of international relief efforts for no reason at all, and seeing the way that this lit the world up and connected people into this cause, that was all of a sudden there was, it is that kind of a story where there are constantly new lenses to go back and look at it, and to look at it at this moment is different than to look at it 5 years ago, is different than to look at it, 10 years before that. So that really jumped out, and it's not accidental, coincidental, but I feel like that wasn't even the intention of the project that they were making. They would have been making this film before all of this chaos was happening.
For sure.
That really, really jumped out to me. But yeah, my relationship, I mean, I think we've talked about it before. I was 18. I don't know. I'd have to do the math. Something like that, 18, 19.
Mm-hmm.
And totally was just as a fan, as a consumer. I mean, I can specifically tell you, we were driving. I listened to the first half on the radio because we were driving to a family vacation that day. And I was listening in the car. And then we got to my grandparents' house where we were stopping on the way to wherever. And I ran in to watch them, the rest of it on TV once we got there. So, trying to get in as much as I could get in, but really just experiencing it sort of on the, almost on the fly that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think I was 15, and it was like nothing I had ever experienced or witnessed, because remember, no internet. So you knew very little. And I didn't even have an MTV at the time yet,
What?
or I think we had just gotten it, or, remember, everything was rolling out very slowly.
Yeah.
And also then you had to have your parents agree to get it for you too. Um,
Right.
the whole event was kind of a surprise while you were watching it, because you didn't know what bands really
Yeah.
were on. You didn't know who was going to show up. You didn't know what was going to happen next. And I just remember sitting there with a stack of blank VHS tapes, because I was taping the whole thing
Holy
and making
cow.
sure I caught every minute of it. And I just started, I had my first real job, and I'm taking this day off. I'm not going to be there. And it was just, it was unbelievable, because, at 15, up until that point, I'd been to maybe 2 concerts in my life. So I'd never been to a festival or anything on this scale, let alone it happening in 2 major venues and then all around the world. Plus all the interstitial stuff, plus Mark, you guys being there, kind of gluing it together and making it make sense to a 15-year-old kid and why this is happening, was just something you just won't forget. And then, you just remember certain performances. Like everyone remembers Queen, without a
sure.
doubt. But U2, for me,
Sure.
I really felt like I was watching a band become legendary in that
100%.
moment.
Absolutely.
Like that's where it changed from you are just another band to you are the biggest band in the world. Right.
But what
there.
did you think about Bono's comment that he can't watch
the
the
mullet?
footage?
Because of the mullet. Like, we'll get, they teased it. We'll get there. But he said that. He said that a lot of times in a lot of his stuff. But question, for you, I think what Roger just said, I guess we sort of knew the list of performers, sort of, kind of, but it was that you don't know what's coming next, and you don't don't know what's going to happen, or who's going to pull it off, or these reunions, or whatever it is. I mean, Mark, obviously you could spend the next 6 hours just doing the riff, but what was that feeling of, Roger said you guys having to kind of hold it together, paced up between the acts. Maybe the order was going to hold, maybe it wasn't. Just how whirlwind was it in the center of it?
It was. Now, this is 1985. So in terms of live events for us, for the VJs and for MTV, really, for the most part, it was our New Year's Eve shows. So we've done 4.
I was going to say, you guys never really covered something like this before. There was no blueprint for you guys.
Oh, not at all. And you're right, Alan. The nature of it being seat of your pants. Yeah, sure. They had a sort of a vague lineup, and we were getting reports from, we arrived at the site in Philadelphia at about 6 a.m. And I think we went live pretty soon after that. And we were getting reports, at that point. I think I remember that we got something from Bryan Adams from the Canadian contingent. And we got something from people in Australia that aired just as we were starting. But, who was going to show up with who? We didn't really know. We just knew, okay, these guys are probably going to come on next. And then when it got to where we were actually on and there were actually bands performing in Philadelphia and we had to go back and forth between Wembley and JFK, it got really confusing. And in fact, I think we missed a chunk of The Who. I think we had tech problems, if I remember. They were playing in London. And we were padding, there's somebody, we would go backstage and see the things that were going on backstage, which, by the way, was incredible. One of the moments for me was standing outside a trailer backstage, looking through the window in the trailer. And there's Bob Dylan and Keith Richards futzing around on guitar, trying to figure out what they're going to do. I mean, and
which they never did quite figure out, but
they never did. Well, but that's testament to what the day was about. I mean, do we talk about the Led Zeppelin reunion?
Yes.
So it really was seat of your pants. But, and one of the things I'll just be personal about it for a second, that the 4 of us, certainly in Philadelphia, were hearing, we started to get these sort of words that the press was slagging us off. And why? Because we were up there dancing and moving to the music. And I'm like, whoa, we were a part of that moment. Talk to the director. The fact that he put me on camera while I was enjoying the moment. Hey, sorry. And I say that because we all, I mean, the people that were behind the scenes working with us, we all worked our asses off that day. And we really did feel as though we were a part of something so big and important.
Did you have a sense of that scale? I mean, could you, when you're in it and it's live and you're just trying to get from one stage to the other or from one shot to the other, meantime, are you getting a sense of the magnitude of what it is that's happening, or you're just trying to hang on and afterwards you look and see? Man,
it was pretty much hanging on.
Yeah.
It was pretty much
It has to be.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting the reports from London. Okay, well, so Queen's going to go on now, or, oh God, there's tech problems with the Who. So we were getting all of those things, and we were seeing, the pieces that they ran to talk about what was the reason for the concert. And so we were getting all of that, and we were hearing a bit about money, but we couldn't really get a sense of it going back and forth between the two events. It was really impossible. Even, JFK Stadium is a big stadium.
Yeah.
It was whether 80,000, 90,000 people. And that in and of itself definitely made an impression on us sitting. We were stage right of where everyone was performing. We were on the stage looking out at the audience. And that definitely made an impression on us because we had all emceed concerts and stuff in the past, but not in front of 90,000 people or the audience of, 1.5 billion. And most people in the United States, in fact, all people in the United States up until I think 5 or 6 o'clock, Dick Clark on ABC did 3 hours of it right at that time. But it seemed puny to us compared to what we were doing. So we felt pretty proud about that, but it's a live event. It's a live event, and oh God, we don't know. Okay, get Ben Orr over here. Let's talk to Ben Orr real quick. Hey, how's it going, Ben? It was like that pretty often.
In terms of the CNN thing, what do you? I mean, having seen what the first piece is, but knowing there's 3 coming, like what would you hope to learn more, to find out? What do you still feel isn't known or isn't explored enough about this that a project like this might get into?
I think it's interesting to really hear from some of the other people. We've heard from Bono what it meant to Bono. We've even, for the guys in Queen, we've kind of heard from them. But there were a lot of other acts that this was a massive day for. And not only career-wise, and I have to say my sense of this for all the bands that I talked to in Philadelphia was this wasn't a career move. They did this because they thought it was important. And that, I hope that idea, that they can sort of present that idea going forward. Because like I said, we all, and certainly the bands playing, we felt like we were a part of something, we were doing something. And I want that to come out. I think this first episode showed why do it. And going forward, I'd like to know, and I want to go backstage. I want to see what it was like backstage at Wembley. I wasn't back there. I want to see that. And I want to see, I know we had, back in the day, we had footage from backstage in Philadelphia. And I hope that some of that surfaces. I did an interview with Jack Nicholson that was so much fun. And he was great, and he was warm, and he was, sincere and all of those things. So I hope those kinds of things come out. I know Alan Hunter did one with Chrissy Hind that was terrifying to him, as I remember it.
Sounds about
as
right.
She can be. But those are the kinds of things that I'm hoping. Yeah.
But I was always curious, like, what was it like for you, Mark, when this thing got announced, like, and they came to MTV and said, we want you to be a part of it. Did you guys know, like, all right, we'd love to be, but what do we do?
We had no idea. We had no idea about what this event was going to be like. We had no way to even conceive of it. I know that there was obviously a ton of planning going into it, pre-production. And I will say that all went out the window day of show. We had the person, just a behind the scenes glimpse, the person who was head of talent for us at the time was fired right before the show, or quit right before the show. So suddenly we need someone this is what you need, someone who is the point person for MTV to say, hey, you, Chrissy Hind, we want to talk to you. Come here. We need that. And we didn't have that. we literally were flying by the seat of our pants. And the guy who was our producer on stage, a guy named Brian Diamond, was also a guy who, when bands were playing, they'd send him backstage to find somebody for us to talk to. Would you find somebody? Because everybody was off doing their own things and getting ready for their sets. So it was...
MTV is fairly still new at this time to some large extent.
Yeah. I mean, look, we were, we had already been through Thriller. So
Right.
we were an entity for sure.
You were an entity, but how did this is the first time you guys are in that kind of a situation with that many bands at once. How did they react to you guys being there?
My sense of things, for generally speaking, is they were all just blown away at the moment. I took many years later, I talked to Rick Springfield, who he was supposed to meet Eric Clapton, one of his idols. And he couldn't, he was too nervous. He said, I can't. He had to focus on his set. He didn't want to talk to Eric Clapton because he was terrified about going up there on stage and doing his set. And like I mentioned, Bob Dylan and Keith Richards working it out, and they never did. And look, he was obviously at the time still huge for us. The Cars also really big for us around that time. But they were, I feel like for the most part, I can't say I got this vibe from Chrissy, but for the most part, everyone felt a bit, I don't know if humbled is the right word, but they felt humbled by the moment, the massiveness of it and the importance of it.
If you're David Bowie and you're going on in the afternoon when you're this major headlining act, you've got to be humble. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's only so many people that could go on last,
And that's even like you talk about Bowie, the Bowie Jagger video, dancing in the streets, which was, people go, oh God, what kind of crap video was that? That was, for people who don't know, their response to realizing that they could not do a transatlantic duet, that there was a half a second gap. So they had to, in 24 hours, record, shoot, and edit that video and get it on the air.
All of that stuff was striking too. In this, again, the first CNN piece, I guess we know the time pressures on the Do They Know It's Christmas session is part of the story, but also that we have to have this in and mixed before morning breaks to have this thing out, and that's where the pressing plan is holding, and just all of that stuff. Quick, I know we got to move on, but Roger, I was thinking of you. Any thoughts at seeing that footage? There's a little bit of it cut in the actual video, but watching Phil Collins play the drum part,
that was the highlight for me of the doc.
I thought that was going to hit for you.
Only because, it's so bizarre because he's so not thought of as a drummer, but yet he's one of the most recognizable sounding drummers. When you hear it, you know it's him. Whether it's In the Air Tonight, Do They Know It's Christmas, Something Going On by Frida, he's got a sound. And he's a phenomenal, and a lefty drummer, I might say. And he's phenomenal. And he goes in and does the drums at the end, which is really hard to do.
With everybody gathering around to watch him do it.
And they're all amazed. And they're all just amazed watching him do it. That was great. That was really great.
I had never seen that particular footage before, and was so excited to see that. And it was like he came in there and banged it out. Okay, what's next?
After sitting around for 5 hours, waiting for them to say, we want, full credit for that. I gotta say.
For sure. And, for the well-intentioned Concorde flight. I don't know how he came up with that. But
if I'm not mistaken too, you've got Phil Collins sitting there, who at the time is a huge solo star.
Huge pop star, yeah.
We want you to play drums. We're not going to give you a line in the song, though.
Right. Well,
I'm sure we will stay with this as the next few weeks go on, but 40 years this weekend of this event. And
so we got 3 more weekends to go on CNN.
before we go to a break and before we come back with our interview with Dave Stewart.
Indeed. We love hearing from you guys, the Sound Up Pod squad. And Squatter Ed sent in a review, his perspective of Live Aid from JFK.
Greetings, Sound Up. This is Ed Concert calling in with a review of a show I went to 40 years ago. Yes, Mark was not the only one who was at Live Aid all day. My buddy Russ and I, who I still go to shows with, We're veterans of JFK shows by that point. We arrived early. We had our new Oscar coolers that we could sit and stand on, stocked with the appropriate supplies, got down on the field, got up front 30, 40 feet from the stage, dead center, and spent the whole day there, because you can do that when you're in your early 20s. Overall, it was a great day. As you know, some of the performances did not resonate with us as much because we weren't fans at the time. In hindsight, we should have been. And also the video feed from London was not super exciting when you were down on the field with a bunch of people. Watching TV was not what we came there for. So the fantastic shows that went on in England, we didn't realize how fantastic they were at the time. But overall, it was a great, great day. Highlights for me were Hall & Oates with the Temps, Eric Clapton, Mick Jagger and Tina Turner were amazing, even though State of Shock's not the best song ever. Of course, Led Zeppelin and Phil Collins was exciting to us. But we're so glad we went. We had a great time. I've been loving reliving everything through YouTube and CNN and all. And I still have 2 T-shirts from there. 2 original T-shirts, never been worn, never been washed, but for some reason they don't fit. But yeah, it was great, and glad everybody else is enjoying it too. We will talk to you soon.
Ed, thank you.
By the way, Ed said that Pod Squatter Sunita has already put claims on those T-shirts, but Ed did send us a photo of the shirts that I will put up on socials.
I don't have one. I was about to get in touch with him. How much do you want for the shirt?
You know, that was one other thing, Mark, I wanted to ask you. Do you have memorabilia from Live Aid? Photos?
No.
Anything?
No. Zilch. I have 0. I have nothing. And thank God this weekend, I only got a couple of emails about my shorts, which I do still have.
Did see some photos. Did see some.
There were some photos.
Cross social media.
You know, it was hot that day. Okay, it was really hot, and I knew, and humid. It's Philly, and Ed, the fact that Ed was in the audience all day long. Props. It was.
I'm
brutal.
kind of shocked by how many people I know who were there. I mean, it's of the right age, and it's of people who are like, it's not a random sampling of the world. But I feel like I know a number of people who were there, which just any given slice of one person, like how much is it going to be? So.
Oof, yeah. That was great, Ed. I really, really appreciate that. I'll tell you what, let's take a fast break. We have our conversation with Dave Stewart up next here on Sound Up. Stay there.
Welcome back to Sound Up. And as promised, up next is our conversation with Dave Stewart. We spoke with Dave a few months back, right before his album, Dave Stewart Sings Bob Dylan, was released in a special Record Store Day edition in April, and right before he was set to join the Love Rocks benefit here in New York City with a new version of Eurythmics. This week, the album of Dylan covers is being released worldwide, so here is our conversation with Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Dave Stewart.
It's been said that Dave Stewart is a jack of all trades and a master of all of them. He, of course, is the co-founder, producer, and co-writer of UK duo Eurythmics. He's been a combination of a singer, songwriter, producer, photographer, author, and entrepreneur. He's won a slew of awards, Grammys, Golden Globes, ASCAP, and BMI Awards, Brit and Ivor Novello Awards. He's produced albums and co-written songs with artists all over the musical spectrum. Mick Jagger, Tom Petty, Stevie Nicks, Aretha, Katy Perry, Sinead, and Bob Dylan. Stewart has been a major Dylan fan since his early teens when he was playing Dylan covers in folk clubs in his UK hometown. Now, his Dylan tribute album called Dave Does Dylan is a special vinyl release for Record Store Day on April the 12th. And we are thrilled to have Dave Stewart with us here on Sound Up. Welcome, Dave. With his guitar, by the way. Who knows?
Already going to set him up.
Thank you very much.
Is it fair to say that Dylan was the reason that you wanted to play music, that you wanted to get into this crazy gig?
Well, the first thing that happened was, I got sent by my cousin, who was about 9 years older than me, and had managed to get to Memphis and sent a couple of blues albums in a box with a couple of pair of Levi corduroy jeans, which we'd never seen before in the northeast of England. And I wanted to be a soccer player, so I never listened to music at all. And so I was more interested in the jeans at first. And then I was so bored because I had my knee broken, and the same month my mother left my father. The house was empty. My brother had gone to college, and my dad, who liked music, had made a homemade record player. And so I got these blues albums and put them on. And what happened was I didn't really understand it was music at first. It sounded so alien. It's like Robert Johnson wailing in a hotel room recording or something. And I just went into a trance. It was like sat on the sofa, and it was just, by the time, the side finished and it was, I was like, what was that? And then I picked it up again. I was looking at it, and this must be music. So then I went into the kitchen, and I switched on the radio, which I didn't used to do because my dad used to have it tuned to a certain sort of classical. We only had 4 radio stations, like Radio 1, Radio 2, Radio 3, Radio 4. And but anyway, can you imagine? This is 1966. I'm 14 years old, and it was the Beatles, the Kinks, the Rolling Stones, the Who, all these things came out of the radio, and I'm not allowed to swear on here, right? So, and I was like mind blown. And then a part of my little brain at the time was going, hey, some of this sounds a bit like what that guy was singing on the record that I was listening to. And it was this bluesy element that the Rolling Stones had in it. And, I could hear some connection between the two. So it was blues music. But then, stuck in the house, my brother, he was 4 years older, he'd gone to college, had bought, I think, the first 2 Dylan albums. And so then I thought, there's more records here. So I stuck them on, and I just was in shock at the words coming out of this young man's mouth. And so I couldn't really learn those blues things, but I could sing these Bob Dylan songs. So I picked, when I heard the blues, my brother had a guitar in the cupboard with 5 strings on it or something. Him and his mates would, at the bottom of the garden, would like try and work things out, but I wasn't interested. But on the 2 strings, I realized blues notes were a bit these notes, like even that, you see. And I was just doing that. And then I tried to sort of make a noise like, bending it. And that's all I was doing. But then I heard Bob Dylan, playing chords and finger picking and singing along at the same time. So I went to see my next door but one neighbor called Mr. Gibson, a lovely man who was captured and put in a Japanese prisoner of war camp for 4 years in the war.
Oh, jeez.
And, there was about 1,000 of them captured at once on a ship, and only about 19 came back. And he was one of them. And while he was a prisoner of war, it was a terrible situation. They had to build the Burmese railway, and, just men were just falling, dropping like flies. He picked up some bits of wire and wood and made this little thing, and he would try and keep the guys happy by just making up some songs and playing it on this homemade kind of banjo meets guitar that he made in the prison camp. So I knew he had that and that he played the guitar a bit, so I went round to see him. And he's a really sweet man. He just passed away about 2 years ago at about 102 years old. And he said, "Oh, sure, lad, yeah, come here, I'll show you how to play some things." And what I didn't realize was he had it tuned to a chord, right? So that's what he'd been doing, and so I learned all this stuff. So when my brother's friend came round and said, "Oh, this guitar's tuned all wrong," and tuned it back, I was like, fuck. I just had to play
Lost all that work, yeah.
Yeah. Funnily enough, 1990, 91, I paid for a documentary to be made about Delta blues. It's called Deep Blues.
Fantastic film with the late Robert Palmer, my favorite music writer of all time.
Yes, and he was really wonderful, and he narrates through it, and I've flew out to be with him, And I was paying homage really to this Delta blues and my influences in that world, because later on, obviously, I did learn how to play the blues, and I still play it nearly every night, when I'm having a little bit of a shot of vodka or something at 7:42 p.m.
Nice. I like that ritual.
So I'm super. I just want to you're listening to Dylan in 1966 or whatever it is. Cut to almost 20 years later. I can never. And the phone rings for you in the studio, and it's Bob Dylan on the other end of the line, out of nowhere, out of the blue. What is this story?
Yeah. So I was in the studio in 1980, whatever it was, 84, 85. And I was working with an Irish boy called Fergal Sharkey, who used to be in a band called The Undertones. And he'd gone to the bathroom and the phone rang in the control room. And I picked it up. And the receptionist of the studio said, "It's Bob Dylan for Dave Stewart." And I was like, "Yeah, right." And I thought it was Fergal, telling her to say that, because I would go on about Bob Dylan all the time to anybody I met. So, and then they put him through, and within seconds, I realized nobody could imitate that voice.
Not even Timothy Chalamet.
Many can imitate, but none can quite get it right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like everybody's very unique. And I immediately thought, oh, it is him. And I could concentrate, kind of. And he was talking about he wanted to meet up and chat about, I don't it's hard to explain, but just talk about film, things like that, he was just saying, kind of giving me a glimpse of what he was wanting to talk about without giving too much away. And of course, I agreed and met him that night. And we had a great meal, and we were drinking sake and talking about everything from French surrealist filmmakers to the blues, and he knew who Jessie May Hemphill was. It was about the only other person I knew who Jessie May Hemphill was. And we got on really good. And of course, from then on, we did lots of things together. And he would come over to England, and we would jam in this. I'd then created a studio in a church Annie and I bought. And also I shot films with him in 8mm. And I went to Japan with my mate Terry Hall, who was the singer of the Specials. And we supported Dylan in Japan. And so, I had many conversations around his house in just past Malibu. And I know him very, very well.
How did this interaction, this incredible connection out of the blue, what do you bring away from that? What is your time working with him and your friendship with him?
Mm-hmm.
How has that affected you, not only professionally, but as a human?
Yeah, I was talking to my wife about this, because we saw the movie. And you say, when you get to my age, I'm like 72. So I started when I was 14, and I got signed by Elton John to his record label, his little band. It was the first signing to Rocket Records. And
was this the Tourists?
No, it was before that.
Before the Tourists.
It was all acoustic band called Long Dancer, which it's a funny story in itself, because we didn't have really a name yet, and we were sat around in Island Music offices, because Chris Blackwell signed me as a songwriter to Island Music when I was 19, and we came to London. We'd only played in a folk club before, and we were in this little kind of cupboard room with Ian Hunter smoking a joint in Island Music, but we were trying to think of a name, and somebody passed him the joint, and it was right at the end, so really it sort of burnt his lungs, and he said, "Oh, that's a Long Dancer," meaning it was burning his lungs. And we were, "Oh, that's quite a good name," because we were stoned. Long Dancer. But it was the way he said it with a Birmingham accent, or Long Dancer, So we ended up with this name, and that was sort of So that was bloody hell, 1970. So I was 18, 1971. Through the years, I seem to have, been around, met various people that were of, certain sort of fame or well-known writers, artists, and I've always got on really well with them and had this sort of friendship bond, like with Tom Petty or Lou Reed, who a lot of people would find quite tricky and difficult to get along with. We got on along great and would have just very straightforward conversations and fall about laughing and, and it was similar with Bob, you see. So the conversations were not like an interview. I think this is most people's fear. Even I get it sometimes, we'll go to dinner and my wife would be talking and then she'd say, "How did you enjoy yourself?" I said, "Well, it was a good interview."
But he wasn't quizzing you.
No, the other way around.
Yeah.
I wasn't quizzing him.
Yeah.
So as soon as that, is established, then very straightforward conversations. It's like kind of a trust level mixed with a understanding of another creative person, and then the conversations quickly go just to like some really interesting ones. Like, you see, when I made Deep Blues with Robert Palmer, Bob was saying, and I wish I'd done it, he wanted to make one. He said, "Hey, how about making one about bluegrass and before a lot of them pass away going up in the mountains and all that?" And I couldn't, because I was beside Eurythmics. I'd started to do this other thing and we'd already booked a tour. But the best one he said to me was he wanted to make a documentary about the sewers of Paris. First, I didn't understand it, but you see, he's really brilliant mind, as well as just read just about every French poet and all about, Paris and just any question really about anything. And he was linking it to, poetry and how some of these poets were completely broke and places that would hide out and, So, yeah, conversations were more about these kind of things.
So from all the decades of loving the music and then now these decades of, being around him, why was it time to make this record? And how did you choose from that body of work which songs you were going to take on?
Well, I didn't think I was making a record. What it was, in the studio or in a hotel room or in the house when there was a break, or just if the sort of thought came to me, I think I'll record this, and I would put an iPhone up and on a stick, and just sing, filming myself, one take, these songs, and have a couple of mics like you have here, just to record it at the same time as this one shot. So every single song you can see them just one take with the iPhone, and I'm in different locations, like in a hotel room or wherever. That ended up being the album. I didn't do anything. That was the take.
You were just doing those along the way, and then there was enough
for
of them.
fun. Yeah, and then,
Yeah.
So this started about a year ago. It'd be like one or two in a month, just not thinking they were an album. I would just put bits of them up on Instagram, say, "Here I am in Amsterdam," whatever, and here's a song by Dylan called Simple Twist of Fate, And then the sort of remarks coming in were like, "Oh, we really like these. This should be an album, blah, blah, blah." So the more I did it, there was more and more people saying the same thing. And then my management, Surf Dog, Dave Kaplan management, they have a label. They said, "We want to put this out on vinyl." Actually, I just got some tape in the box.
There it is. Hold it in your hands.
Yeah. So, and me changing the camera. I had two cameras to film. I didn't have any help. So I was making these little films on 8mm. They said that. And I said, "Well, okay, let me listen to them back." And then I'd made a lot more than what's on the album, but then I had to choose.
So basically it was you just, this was a good take. That can work.
No, I liked all of the recordings. But the thing is, you could only fit 14 on the vinyl.
Yeah.
unless it was a double album, and then that was getting a bit risky for them to put out, because it's quite odd anyway. People who don't realize my sort of obsession with blues and folk music, and the fact that I'm a guitar player and not playing synthesizer, because sweet people go, Dave Stewart, Sweet Dreams. Now, the amount of times people have sang that to my face.
Not the worst thing that could happen, by the way.
Well, no, but so I started to learn to finger pick, when I was about 6 months after I'd got the guitar in the right tuning. But I was starting to learn, his. Then I realized this guy called Mississippi John Hurt was also doing this finger picking. Right, so, and I talked to Bob about that, about Mississippi John Hurt and all, the different styles of playing and all that stuff. But then I would go to a folk club, and I looked about 12, and so they wouldn't let me in, made me stay outside, even though they were very lax up there about the age of drinking. They still are compared to America. But then this guy who ran the folk club in the pub, I played a song to him just outside, and he says, "All right, lad, you can come in." So I got on the stage looking about 12, and they were singing a lot of what you call like sea shanties and coal mining songs, where there's no guitar. You put your hand over your ear and you go, "Well, me going down the mine," and I get up looking 12 going, "Well, they know I used to sit down and wonder why, babe, even you don't know but now." And they were like, "What? What is he singing?"
What's that?
Yeah, and then I learned many as the years went by, and just sort of, everything from Blonde on Blonde and Another Side of Bob Dylan, and bringing it all back
Visions
home.
of Johanna on this record.
That's right, yeah.
You got to know all those words.
Yeah.
Well, this is the tricky part. As you know, some songs like Visions of Johanna might have like 16 verses or whatever.
You could have done Sad-Eyed Lady.
I did do Sad-Eyed Lady at the Lola Lounge. Yeah, but I love that song, actually. I don't think there's anything that he's ever recorded or done that I don't like. It's actually a funny thing in one of the albums. One thing that Bob and I did together, I said, "Listen, have you ever been to Hyde Park Speaker's Corner, where people get on a box on a Sunday?"
Box, yeah.
And they, you can talk about anything you want, So there'll be like somebody ranting about climate change on one box, and somebody else is talking about Jesus on another box, and he was fascinated. So we went there via my houseboat, which I also filmed him on another occasion for Blood in My Eyes, the video you can see on YouTube. So we get there, and then I noticed years later in one of his songs, I think it's called Talking TV Blues or something. It's all in the song,
Yeah.
Then he went to a Hyde Corner, and there was people on boxes talking about this and that. And
It's all.
so, when I'm, singing something like Tangled Up in Blue or Simple Twist of Fate, songs like that. And it's so descriptive of, the places or people, with names changed or whatever. And you can see that every single thing that's happening is going in and coming out in one way or another in very specific. I mean, the most specific song of sort of sad breakup is Sarah.
Sure.
That song. And he talks about the kids with the shells on the beats in their hands and all this kind of stuff.
Staying up.
So he paint.
Yeah.
Yeah, or When I Paint My Masterpiece,
Right.
See, he has this massive descriptive sort of way of putting you into the scene. But he'll do that in 2 lines, and then you're in another scene somewhere else. But the words are so poignant, specific, and not generic that you'll go around singing those 2 lines for like years, and then you'll decide, oh, well, these other 2 lines, when you bent down to tie the laces of my shoe, tangled up in blue, So the rhyming scan and the whole way that a lot of pop songs or normal songs work is, they'll have a rhyme at the end of the line. And sometimes people do it slightly different, but Bob will make a word that is not the end of the line sound like it's going to, like he'll draw out the word fray for freight train, right?
And then carry it over.
And then it lands. So that's rhyming, but then the next word but one rhymes with the other line. So it's a brilliance that I don't think many people could ever get near, and I don't think many people have. Now, Lou Reed, during the Velvet Underground stage and throughout his career, has his own version of brilliance that has a darker, surreal, darker element to it, but is potent as well,
Unrelated, before we let you out of here, though, I have to ask, you're coming to New York soon, you're playing the Love Rocks benefit, and there's a listing for Dave Stewart's Eurythmics or New Eurythmics or something. Yeah. I don't know anything about what these plans are. What is it that you're doing, and is that a one-off, or is this something you're now revisiting?
Well, I just played 60 shows last year.
Yeah.
And I have an all-girl band that are all brilliant musicians. And then the last 2 months, November, December, I did a tour of Germany. I was headlining this thing with a 90-piece orchestra with Eurythmic songs, you see. So I've done it many times. So the lead singer I'm taking with me to New York, this amazing Australian girl that, because she never really played outside of Australia, not many people know about her, but she's one of the greatest singers I've ever heard. And she's called Vanessa Amorosi. So I took her to play in Europe, and we did some with Bryan Adams in America early in the year. Mm-hmm. And the audience's mouths kind of drop when she's singing, like, who the fuck is that? And she is
she could pull that off.
Oh, she is incredible. She's called Vanessa Amorosi.
Can we get you before, because we are running out of time? I know that you have this thing booked in March, which I guess sort of falls in line with what we're just talking about.
That's this Love Rocks thing.
It's that, but there's the thing on March 22nd, recorded live at Analog. You're booked.
PBS, Nashville's PBS, filming it, and I'm actually doing it in a very unique way because when I was just singing in the iPhone. That's fine. It's an acoustic, just me and voice at the same time. I thought for this, it would be really great to do something unusual. So I've got a good friend of mine, Dan Dugmore, one of the greatest pedal steel guitar players. Mike Rojas, won many times, Nashville best pianist kind of. And then I decided to use 2 cellos and 2 violas because I play some quite sort of emotional Dylan songs, and so I wanted to keep that string section in the lower area, but very warm sounding, because Dan can play on the pedal steel, he can be floating on the top, so it's going to be a very interesting performance, and I've never seen that kind of lineup in my life ever yet, so I always want to jump in the deep end, if you know what I mean.
Be great. Just in that little room in the Hutton Hotel. I know where they shoot those. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I'd love to play Simple Twist of Fate, but the laptop it's quite a complicated setup we
Well,
have here.
we can't afford to pay the publishing on that. So, it's the thought that counts around here.
Yeah, thank you.
So do you want to do these lightning round questions before we let you out of here?
Sure. Yeah.
Mark, you've got them up?
I don't. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. Three things. You sort of answered the first one already, but Dave Stewart, what was the first album you purchased?
I'm hinting at the answer. The first album I actually purchased was an EP, and it was a Rolling Stones EP, and it had on it Poison Ivy, and I can't remember the 4 tracks that were on it, because EPs were great. It was like a single, but with 4 tracks. But it had a glossy cover with pictures, and that was the first thing, because it was only one record shop, and you had to queue up outside for ages.
So the album was
the Stones, one of those early Stones EPs, if it's them still doing
early Stones EP,
cover,
that had Poison Ivy on it.
All right. Here's the next one. What is the last live concert you attended? And that would be as an audience member.
Oh God! Well, because I played so many shows, I didn't tend to go to many concerts afterwards. I was dying to sort of, just sit around with my mates. But Jesse, you're with me. Like, what was the last concert I went to? It might have been Inhaler.
Yeah.
Breaking
record for them. Yeah.
Mr.
Hewson,
yes.
indeed.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, that's who I went to see last. Sorry, he's right. The Killers.
Killers was the last
Killers,
show?
Yeah. And also, one of my favorite artists from where I'm from, up in the Northeast, was on at the same time. Anyway, carry on as you were.
So last question. Which song do you wish you wrote?
Sad-Eyed Lady of the Lowlands.
See above. See previous. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly,
yeah.
All right.
Well, Dave, we're looking forward to that moment when you come to New York. The Love Rocks show is something
always
great.
fun.
Yeah, always fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, because I also love various people on the lineup, like Mavis Staples, and everybody on the lineup, actually.
Yeah, great, Bill. All right, Dave Stewart. Thank you, man.
Thank you very much.
Great to see you.
As always, we love hearing from you. How do you do that? Connect at Sound Up Pod. That is how you can reach us via audio message, which we really love, and an email. Do that at connect@sounduppod.com.
And a reminder, now that we are fully in the full swing of summer here in mid-July, we got to start thinking about, I hope we've been thinking about what this year's Song of the Summer is going to turn out to be. We want to hear your thoughts. Get your picks in. Email us, connect@sounduppod.com with your Song of the Summer selections, nominations, consideration, and we will discuss that a little further down the road once we've got a better grip on the summer of 2025.
I don't think there can possibly be a song of the summer of 2025 that will surpass my song for the summer of 2024, the Jardians theme song.
Inescapable,
exactly. So we do have our new music coming up here, but a big event in music, especially for Bieber fans. Justin Bieber dropped a new album called Swag. So I don't even know how to weigh in on this.
I'm just, it'll be really interesting to see. It's been 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
Since a solo album. It is his 7th. I mean, we have to start to think of, Justin Bieber's not exactly legacy artist, but we are talking about somebody now with 18, 15, 17-year career? Not that long until we start talking about Rock and Roll Hall of Fame eligibility for Justin Bieber. So he's shown up on stuff, obviously has had all the personal drama and offstage soap opera that continues, but put out 21 tracks, 54 minutes of music. And this is one of these, it's really hard for me to have a sense of, he's obviously still top tier pop star, but like, where is pop radio, whatever that means? Where is a
Yeah.
playlisting universe? He's doing the Drake thing of you release a huge ton of stuff and then watch it flood the charts and see what happens. Tons of guests: Gunna, Sexy Red, Cash Cobain, Dijon, producers, McG. Interested to hear what McG did. And Daniel Caesar, which is a more sort of old schooly, almost sort of R&B thing. I mean, obviously shot straight to the top of the charts. Singles, went to the top of the charts, but how you get a read on the status and standing of Justin Bieber is a little tricky for me.
We'll see what the charts say,
I guess so. I don't know. I don't know what to make of the guy at this point. As is he trying to with this? Is he trying to? I don't want to say grow up, because he's grown up, but is he trying to
mature musically?
Mature? Yeah. Be a heavier artist than just a pop star, and it seems like he is.
Lyrically, it does. And
Yeah.
I put the album on this weekend, and it's so weird because he's got this, or had this reputation of being just like a punk, just getting into trouble a lot. And that's a long time ago, but it sticks with you. And you forget that he's super talented. And
It's
you
true.
put this record on and you're like, damn, this guy's good.
Yeah, there's a lot of different
Yeah,
stuff.
true.
There's more acousticy stuff.
Yep.
There's, reggae stuff, soul, gospel flavor stuff. Like we know there's talent that's there. But again, 4 years since the last album, like who is the Bieber? Is it, with a lot of these, with young artists as they get older, is it the audience that's growing up with him and is a little bit older and is there because it's him? Or is it the younger pop singles audience? What's your base?
I'm curious if you in our pod squad are listening. If you have a feeling one way or the other about this, connect at sounduppod.com. Let's sample the audience. Let's see what the audience has to say. I don't know, honestly. It's I have to say, Roger, I put the thing on and sort of picked my way through it over the weekend, and it seemed as though he was trying to do what I was saying.
Yeah.
But beyond, I can't, I don't even know where to put it with the rest of his music. I don't know where to put it in terms of music that's out today. Help me. Somebody help me.
Before we get to new music, I wanted to ask you guys if you were on social media this week, and I don't want to ask Sound Up Pod Squad too. If you were there, please call in, send in a review. I mean, I am just blown away at the visuals and how big the Backstreet Boys are now. This Sphere residency
thing,
looks
right?
Insane.
Yeah. See that I feel like the Backstreet Boys, there's still, there's a fascination with them. There's something, I don't know why I can't apply that to Bieber. Backstreet Boys
is pinned to a moment in time.
Yeah, I guess
and
that's
a phenomenon and a nostalgia. Like what the at least the base of that audience is. The Bieber thing is a little less fixed than that. It's not like there's the one that's the Bieber thing, and that everybody of that age is going to hang on to that moment. Like it's a different. That's a moving target. I think in a way that's different than what something like a Backstreet thing is.
Right. That's true.
Interesting to me with Backstreet that it's I think it's the first really that somebody who's been doing Vegas residencies moves into a Sphere residency.
Mm-hmm.
The others have all been such special event, the fact that they're doing it and coming and setting up,
Right.
this long-term thing at all is the news. That's not the news for them. The news for them is this escalation into a different magnitude of event.
Yes, you're right, Roger. Let's hear from the pod squatters on this one.
Yeah, definitely.
Love to get their take. Let's jump into some new music picks. I want to go first. My weekend, I had a G Flip weekend.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
On Friday, I would not have guessed that was what my weekend was going to be about, but she put out a new single called In Another Life, which is from her upcoming album called Dream Ride, which is out September 5th. And I've loved, there's already 2 tracks which are going to be on the record that have already been released. And I've loved every one. And this one is no different. She is especially with this album. She is delving into themes of identity, self-expression, nostalgia, and she's focused, as you might imagine, on the LGBTQ plus community on this album. And they pose the question, when I say they, I mean G-Flip, they pose the question, who would I have been in the 80s? Through this lens, she creates this character, Butch Springsteen. Yes, a fictional character embodying the spirit of a masked, lesbian, non-binary, drumming, singing pop star that never existed, particularly through the lens of their alter ego, Butch Springsteen. So I keep on saying they do this exploration through this character, and it is fully 80s, just dip deep into 80s sauce. And the songs that I've heard so far, for me, are not good. They're great. G-Flip, In Another Life from Dream Ride, out September 5th.
So for my picks, I've got two very different kinds of collaborations. The first one is from Virtuosos, bassist Pino Palladino and guitarist Blake Mills. These guys made an album together a couple of years ago called Notes with Attachments, and just announced the second album called That Wasn't a Dream that's going to be coming out next month. Pino Palladino, of course, has played with D'Angelo, with The Who, with Nine Inch Nails, with, the best out there. And Blake Mills, a fantastic guitar player who's worked with John Legend, Alabama Shakes, produced them, won a Grammy, worked with Bob Dylan, with Fiona Apple. And these are just extraordinary players. And at least on this first song that they put out, this first single, which is called Taka, Taka, they're working with a drummer called Chris Dave, who I've seen play with Pino and is an extraordinary drummer. And this track is just really cool. It's kind of, it's an instrumental, kind of funky thing, but not like a deep funk. But I don't know what Blake is playing through some processed guitar that's doesn't sound like a guitar, sounds almost like a horn. And it's like the lead is being passed between all three of them. There's points where like the drummer is playing the melodic lead. And it's just really extraordinary playing, a really cool song. So if you're up for such a thing and you want to listen to some wild players playing an instrumental, Taka from Pino Palladino and Blake Mills is my first pick. My second collaboration is we got a new album from Burna Boy, global Afrobeats superstar, selling out Madison Square Garden, introducing this modern African music to so much of the world. And he has a new album out, including a duet called Empty Chairs featuring Mick Jagger. Now, look, It's not, there's great stuff on this album, and this is clearly not the most like experimental progressive. It's doing a song that you're doing with Mick Jagger, but it is funny to think about. At this point, Burna Boy, probably a bigger star in the world than Mick Jagger is.
Wait, what?
Way magnitudes more streams for Burna Boy songs than for anything that Mick has done. I will tell you right now.
The measurement is how many streams. Okay.
Well, that is the measurement. Of course, that's the measurement. Who's listening? What's getting listened to the most? Okay. So, but it's interesting. What's the strategy? Because it's not like, oh, if Burna Boy does a song with Mick Jagger, that's going to get on the radio. Like that's not. If he does a song with Justin Bieber, it'll get on the radio. So it's really more the statement. And in some ways, it's this funny continuation of Mick being, the guy who wanted to listen to disco or listen to dance music or listen to like, what do we do with punk? What do we do? Like always wanting to be the guy who's, how do we keep the band engaged with what's going on in music? And this is clearly that kind of effort for him. I'm curious who reached out to who, but I got to say it's a pretty good song for being a sort of more pop, more sort of westernized hook version. Mick is the first voice that you hear. He comes in at the top before Burna Boy does. And I have to say, I think it's a pretty good song and pretty fun to hear those voices, whatever the age range is, 60 years between them, or 57 years or whatever it is between the two of them, and hearing what they do with a song like this. So I would listen to the full thing. I think Burna Boy is making great music, but interesting to see and fun to think about what it is for him to do a track with Mick Jagger at this point. So Empty Chairs from those guys. That's my other pick this week.
So the question is his rap on that as great as his rap is on emotional rescue.
Or-
I will be your knight in shining armor.
No, listen. Miss You was the last number one single the Stones ever had. So
How about it?
those dance rhythms, did their thing. That's
yeah,
right.
man. All right. New music picks. I encourage you to check all of them out. I can't believe that Blake and Pino got together again. Did not hear about that or the Burna Boy song. Thank you. I got to check both of those out after we're finished here. If you want to hear anything that we've been talking about, all the music that we talk about here on Sound Up, you simply search our Sound Up soundtrack playlist on Spotify. And don't forget the exclamation point. It's Sound Up, exclamation point, with Mark Goodman and Alan Light. Or you can just go to sounduppod.com and click the link. Way easier.
And while you're at it, give us a 5-star review, like our Facebook page, make sure to check us out, follow us on socials, all connect, and all at sounduppod.com, and the email connect@sounduppod.com.
All right. That is going to wrap it up for this edition of Sound Up. We appreciate you listening, and we will catch you next week.
Sound Up is hosted by Mark Goodman and Alan Light, produced by Roger That Media, distributed by Revolver Podcasts. Theme music by Smile from Tokyo. For more information, go to sounduppod.com. Roger that.